And you're very welcome back to Season 6 of the League.where Women's podcast here on finalwhistle.ie with myself, Breifne Earley. As ever, I'm joined by Aaron Clarke under a slightly new look. It's Let's Talk LOIW now instead of his old moniker, which we won't even name because it got you in trouble all over the place, Aaron. And of course, to my left-hand side on screen, if that's it, actually it's mirrored. If you're watching, we are joined by Emma Kate Dineen, formerly of Treaty United, of course, the media officer last year, and well known to anyone who's watched any games on LOITV, as well as the women's commentator down there for the first half last year. Before you've left the country, Emma, you're joining us from the other side of the world.
A very snowy New Hampshire, so yeah. So that's where people might know me from anyway, especially from the first half of last season. And if they're caught up now, they know I follow Trudy up and down the country with the vlogs. Not at the moment, but when I'm back, hopefully.
Yeah, so studying overseas at the moment. Of course, a new look, new additional faces to the podcast this year. We have a really big action-packed show for you today. We're going to be focusing on the Women's National Development League, Women's Development League, which kicked off last weekend. We're going to be joined on the show by representatives from Dundalk and Finn Harps, who both had really positive results from the weekend. Paddy McDaid, who is the women's development manager in the club in Finn Harps, he's going to be joining us, and Sophie Hanlon, who bagged herself a hat-trick in no less than 14 minutes on Sunday, will be chatting about how Dundalk have taken to life in the new, we'll call it the second tier for want of a better word, but it's the new development league. Under 23 teams for the 12 first teams in the Premier Division, and senior sides for the rest of the teams in the competition. 21 teams in total after Mayo pulled out last week. We might chat about that later on as well. Disappointing news, but better happen now than a couple of games into the season. But we have a few bits of housekeeping. First of all, you're welcome back to Season 6. It's great to be here. We're going to change it a bit. Emma's with us this week. We're going to have other co-hosts joining us throughout the season. Myself and Aaron will be here, joined by different people with different perspectives from around the league. And we're really looking forward to hearing from players. We'll have more guests this year than we've had before, starting with 3 on today's show. But for that, we are, I suppose, getting straight into it. And Aaron, we've kind of been looking and talking in the build-up to the show about maybe some of the movement. There's been so much movement around the league. Let's talk about that to start. 12 teams, some big names. We're seeing names we never thought would leave certain clubs showing up in other teams' dressing rooms for the start of the 2026 season. You've been looking at it. What's the biggest names that have moved club over the last 3 months?
Probably the biggest standout name is probably Noelle Murray. I think that's definitely the biggest one. Noelle going to Athlone. I think there's been a variety of different, like, if you look at, say, for example, let's look at, say, DLR have done well. DLR have signed well, kept players well. I think each club has sort of been different in different senses. It's hard to quantify because everybody will know the big names, the big moments. Like, it's difficult to sort of say who's been the biggest, because I think as much as Noelle is a big signing for Athlone, I think Rola Olasolo is a big signing for Treaty United, whereas I think Emma Duffy can be really, really good at Sligo Rovers. It's difficult. I think the one signing that I'm looking forward to the most, and it's somebody who I still feel to this day was probably a bit harshly taking, didn't win Player of the Year a couple of years ago, in Maggie Pearce coming back to Shells. Great to see Dana Sheriff back in the league. The one thing that I'm sort of looking when I'm looking from the outside is the sheer volume of movement is probably the one thing that surprised me this year, in the sense of, like, some clubs have had to bring in 10 players because they've lost nearly that many. And it's one of these that we probably thought wouldn't necessarily happen. I think Rovers have recruited well. I think Shells have recruited well. Treaty have recruited well. Bows have done well to keep hold of some of the players that they had kept hold of. I'd say to you, if you had to ask me what's the shock move this offseason, as much as Noelle Murray to Athlone was a bit of a shock, I think the move of Ella Malloy to Shamrock Rovers is probably the one that shocks me the most, because I didn't see it coming. I always thought Ellen would be someone who would stay with Wexford. I didn't see that coming at all, especially when they announced she signed and then all of a sudden she's not. She's gone. And I think that's something that we maybe thought we'd seen the back of, because we've seen it a couple of years ago where players have done that, where I didn't expect that to happen this year. I think that's probably the one that stands out for me.
Yeah, Emma, your thoughts on kind of the big names in your opinion of who's moved
Yeah, Aaron just stole it completely out of my mouth. The one that definitely got me was Ellen Malloy, because obviously I know Ellen from, like, obviously I go to school in UL, and she'd be well known for playing for UL as well, down here. So yeah, it had to be Ellen Malloy, because I thought, again, we were slightly past the stage of people getting announced signed for clubs, and then all of a sudden, like, it wasn't what, mere 3 or 5 days later, like it was the same week, announced then for Rovers. So yeah, it's definitely Ellen Malloy for me. Like, she's been class every time I've seen her, and I've known her kind of growing up as well, in terms of different playing underage, and then seeing her play for UL and then for Wexford. So it's been interesting.
Talking about the changes on the pitch, it's all changed in the dugout as well. 12 teams in the league, only 2 of them were in position this time last year, as far as I can make out, and that includes Gary Hunt, who hadn't actually played a game at this time last year. So 10 new faces, not necessarily new faces to the league, but new faces to the positions they're in over the last 12 months. Is that part of the reason why we're seeing so much upheaval, Aaron?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. I'd probably say Emma would probably say the same thing myself. I'm surprised to see it's that many, but the way the women's game is going now, like, we're starting to see more and more managers leave positions during the season. Like, if you'd have said to me last July, Sean Russell will be the manager of Shells, I'd have probably laughed at you. I'd have said, not a chance. And like, even because me and you had conversations where I'd spoke to Owen Wirren towards the end of last season, and everything was plans for this year. Like, some of the managers probably surprised you. And I'm going to ask the two of you this question. What's been the biggest surprise in terms of a manager that's in the dugout this year that maybe you didn't expect to be?
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting when it came to the end of the season that 2 of the 3 nominations for Manager of the Year had left the club in the last 2 weeks, definitely. But I think I know I'm going to be fairly truly biased in this, but Laurie Ryan is going to be very interesting in terms of like female managers, because I know clubs around the league are crying out for managers at the moment. There seems to be like a management shortage in the league at the moment, across all levels, academy and up to seniors. But I think it's going to be interesting to get that kind of female representative in there, and obviously she had a great career with Athlone as well. So for me, I'm excited to see that.
Bear in mind with Laurie that she was very involved with the but the TUS team that won the InterVarsity. So she has maybe not National League experience as a manager, but she definitely has as a player and a captain. And I think she has a relatively comparable standard of football, really, at InterVarsity level. Like, there's those you mentioned, the UL and El Malloy. There's girls playing at that level from across the National League. Like 5 or 6 of every team is playing in the National League at that level. So she's not come in completely out of the blue with no coaching experience. It might be under the radar, but it's definitely there. And I think the attitude and professionalism she brought as a player and a captain, and I suppose the fact that she's doing well in her career as well, in terms of she's a mother now as well. So there's plenty of things.
Just read an article on that today. Yeah.
So there's plenty of things that really, like, she has going for her in terms of experience, and I think I'm looking forward to see what happens there. I have to correct myself. It was actually 3-4 if you count Gary Siri. I missed Phil Trill when I was going through the list the first time, so it's not completely.
Can you read? Do you know what? On this, I'm glad to see Gary Siri's name. I know the FAI stuff was gone. I'm glad to see Gary Siri's name down as manager rather than, because everybody knows Gary done a lot of it. Emma Dunn, who done great work. I'm going to pick up on a couple of points that you have said there. Okay, I want to first, Laurie Ryan. She actually said to me that Craig Sexton was on to her last summer to see about coming into Treaty to actually play, and she said she just couldn't commit to it. And I think it's going to be a bit of a baptism of fire coming into this league. But listen, she's got the tenacity, she's got the fire. She's coming in the exact same way that Kieran Kilduff sort of did with Athlone when he would have been in with Maynooth University and then sort of coming into that. So she's had that little bit of, as I say, the breaking ground with the college and stuff, which is great. Just when you're talking female coaches, I had an interesting conversation with Laura Heffernan at the league launch, and we talked a little bit about DLR Waves, because all bar one, I think, of DLR Waves coaching staff is female. And it's completely different to what we've seen in recent years. You know, she's brought in Rihanna Jarrett this year. Sonia Hughes is in there. People with wealth of experience. And, like, the one thing we always say in terms of female coaches is, I don't want to see any female coach being brought in just to be
just for the sake of it.
I want them brought in because the clubs feel they can make an impact and they can be successful. And that's where I think we're starting to see more and more sort of female managers who are getting opportunities and doing well. and then there's more opportunities coming off the back end. And I think it's great. I think we talk about even referees, we talk about all these sort of things when it comes to females and the other aspects of the game. Like, if they're in a position to contribute and be successful and be a big part of this league growing, it's not going to grow. Yes, it needs males to help and support, but it needs female voices, female leaders, female supporters. That's what helps the League of Ireland grow and keep going. And I think it's great that we're talking about straight off the bat, talking about a female coach who's coming in her first year. And I hope Laurie has a really good year this year with Treaty. I hope she's going to learn a lot. There's no doubt about it. But I think it's great to be talking about that in a positive and talking about, instead of saying, oh, we've no female coaches, we're starting to see more and more. Stephanie Zamber got an opportunity with Shamrock Rovers. Obviously, if you look at Wexford, you've got Jess Lawton coming in as assistant to Dave Connell as well. We're seeing more and more female coaches, and I think it's going to be great for the game going forward.
Yeah, when we have Emma here, we're going to take a look at half of the clubs this week as we build up to the start of the season in 2 weeks' time with the President's Cup. We're going to be talking to Jess Gargan later on in the show. But before we do that, let's maybe look at half the teams this week, and then we'll look at the other half next week in terms of the ins, the outs, the re-signings, where we think they've strengthened, where maybe we might be concerned about their performances this year. And because you're here, Emma, and of course Treaty is so close to the heart, let's start there. Aaron has prepared, he's going to put out on the socials over the next couple of days, if you haven't already by the time this goes out, in terms of the players who have signed for the club and who are back. So Aaron, if you want to give us a quick run through, just kind of list off who's re-signed and who's joined the club, and kind of the highlights of that. If people want the full detail, they can get on your socials.
I think we got the highlights for Treaty. You're probably talking Madison McGuan, Katie Lawley, Anna Rocket, Kate Jones, Laura O'Neill. I'm very impressed with Grace McInerney. I think when we talk Treaty, everybody thinks Ciara McCormick is gone. Treaty's just gonna disintegrate into what was being happening previous. But like, you look at some of the names who've gone out: Lisa Toomey, Isabella Ficini, Gillian O'Toole, Madeline Robbins. Cara Griffin is probably the bit of a surprise, I think, for a lot of people. But they've really recruited very well. I said at the top of the show, Rola Olasolo, great signing, absolutely brilliant. Yeah. Can't wait to see Brianna Taylor. I think she could be very, very good for them. Sarah Rice had some really good moments with Athlone, and then they brought in some other great young players as well. I think for me, Treaty strengthened quite well, and with a new manager, my only concern for Treaty this year is, and I'm sure Emma will agree with me, I'm just... Not that I don't want to say I'm sick of it, but I absolutely despise seeing new manager every year. I think that's not going to help for Treaty grow going forward. I think we need to see a bit of consistency now. We need to see Laurie given a couple of years of a building and an opportunity there, because if they don't do that, you know, the great things they're doing isn't going to really be successful. And I think they've recruited very well, for me, if I'm being honest.
Before Emma jumps in, I want to give her the full rein on the squad after this, but Amber Hardy really impressed me a couple of seasons back with Sligo. She's gone off the boil, maybe a bit under the radar in the last few years, but she could be a decent replacement in goal for Lisa Toomey as well. Emma, you've way more knowledge than either of us have on Treaty. Your thoughts on the players they brought in and who's gone?
Yeah, just on the managers as well. It's such a funny situation, considering on the other side, the men's, Tommy Barrett's been there since the very first season and is still at the helm in the men's side, but yet the women's side has been chopping and changing. The first season I came in, it was Albin, and the second season, which I wish he had been given a more of a go, was Dominic Foley. Really nice character and nice person to have around the league, but obviously then Sean Russell, and now we're on to Laurie. But I'm excited to see what she has to offer. Again, I think some of the departures, we knew they were coming, but the big one for me was Bella Ficini. I equate her to the women's side, to Lee Devil on the men's, who went to Galway. Where the goal's going to come from now is what I'm wondering, because she really just came in. Like, she had signed the summer beforehand for like a week, and then she never, I don't know what happened with there, it just fell over or whatever. And then she just had a stellar season last year. She was so impressive. But
just on her, Emma, Breifne texted me after 20 minutes.
Yes, 17 minutes.
At the opening day of last season, and sent me a picture and said, "Watch out for this girl."
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
Unreal.
She stood out miles ahead of everybody else in the team, but also in the early stages, she was light years ahead of everyone else in the league, I felt, for the first couple of weeks, and didn't really drop off a whole pile. She was quality the whole way through. I think
Such
she's
an
the biggest
intelligent
loss.
player.
Yeah,
Yeah, such an intelligent player and really cool. She's just a really cool person. And you said it was maybe a surprise, Aaron, is Cara Griffin. I don't see it as much as a surprise, having watched really all of last season. I don't know if she just didn't really fit into Sean Russell's system, but she was benched a lot of the season. She didn't get that time on the wing. We kind of saw more of Katie Lawley out there and Madeline Robbins up top, and forgive me, I can't remember who was out the other side of that wing at the other times on the right. But I wasn't surprised that she went to Galway in the end. I think it was coming for a while. And I'm disappointed that she didn't get the time last season, because Cara just had been such a warrior for the club. Like, I think she had the record number of appearances for the women's side, and she's a great player. But I hope she gets on really well at Galway, because she deserves to get that time, especially as a local. It's a local loss as well, because the big thing about Trudy is it's a club for the Midwest, and to have our local talent there was a major thing. So Cara's a big loss, but I'm excited to see the likes of Anya Walsh coming in and Jodie Griffin. They're going to be really exciting to see.
Yeah, some big changes there for Treaty. Let's move around, because we've only got a short time to spend on each team. Let's go across to Wexford. We mentioned the loss of Ella Malloy. There's a couple of other big names out of there too, but some big names through the gate. A small number of signings from other places, Aaron, but the quality is top notch.
Yeah, the one signing for me, and I wonder was it an issue of potentially the fallout of what happened last year with Bowes, is Katie McCarron. Because for me, I didn't see her leaving Bowes this off season. You know, when she played in that cup semi final after coming on and re-injuring her ankle, I sort of thought then it could happen. But Megan Smith Lynch, Emma Bucci's an interesting one coming from the States. Played with Dave Conlon at the Irish under-19s. The one that sort of creeped in across the Three Amigos sort of announced it on social media last night, the Christy Gray one. I had heard that Shells had she was offered to Shells and it didn't work out for Shells. But I think for Wexford, you look at the players who've gone out. Rihanna Jarrett didn't play an awful lot last year. Aoife Kelly's probably the biggest loss for them there. As much as Ella Malloy is the star up top, Aoife Kelly can play six, can play centre back, was really, really, really versatile. And I think she's somebody who sort of, if you're Dave Connolly, you'd be really disappointed not to have held on to. She did play underneath him at the Irish under-19s and was really successful there. But I think if you look at Wexford, like it's going to be a difficult season for them. It's going to be a season where they're going to have to them signings are going to have to perform very well, because they've lost quite a lot of talent out the door. And for Dave Connell, first year in the League of Ireland, having been with the Ireland under-19s for so long. What's it going to be like for Dave adjusting to, week in, week out training and games, considering he's used to just having players for short periods? He was very successful with the Irish under-19s, got them to a couple of European Championship games, reached the semi-finals once. Like, I think there's a good bit of talent in Wexford, but I'd still think they're probably lacking one or two at this stage.
Emma, your thoughts?
Yeah, I just think I commentated on the Wexford games. I just think they may have got slightly lucky with where they finished in the end, just given the ins and outs of the club. They started off quite poor, I remember, Wexford, and they kind of slowly kept up the table, because I remember Treaty were quite high up the table to start, and then it all fell apart after that. But yeah, I'm surprised. I'd like to think that Wexford will have a strong season this season. I think they'll be pushing, but like you said, when you're losing the likes of Ellen Malloy, but you'd like to hope the girls that are there will push on, and maybe when you don't have that big figure up top to kind of spread it around and get the new star of the team.
I do think you didn't mention her in roundup, but Della Doherty's you did mention Charlotte Cromack, who impressed me. Quite a young player, came in, I think she's only 17 or 18, but she really impressed me in terms of just her absolute gung-ho attacking mindset. Every time she got the ball, it was forward. Probably didn't play a massive role in the team, but I thought she had potential to grow into something. But obviously Canadian, her brother played with Wexford last year. She's moved to Hungary, so it could be a thing. The family are following the brother. I don't know quite how she ends up in Hungary, but it is what it is. Lauren Walsh,
mental one.
Lauren Walsh is a good signing though. She impressed with Waterford last year. Big loss for Waterford. We'll get to them in a minute.
Yeah, massive loss for Waterford. I think she's a really, really good signing. Like when I spoke to Dave Connell, he sort of said to me, like, Della Doherty was gone before he got in there. He didn't have a chance there. Like, to bring in someone like Lauren Walsh. Lauren Walsh has been around the league for quite a few years. Was with Cork, then sort of dropped off, and then come back with Waterford. Like, you're right, she had some really, really good performances last year for Waterford, and I think she'll fit right in there. Will definitely be someone who they sort of need. I have a name on my list that I'm sort of keeping a close eye on, and I'm going to follow up with Wexford just to ask the question. But according to FAI Connect, Lolly Connellan's not registered this year at the minute, and if that's the case, that's another massive loss for Wexford. I think one thing that I will say on a positive from Wexford last year was keeping LOIWomen fit. When LOIWomen is fit, she's an unbelievable centre back. I think from a Wexford viewpoint, like, they've got very good players, but I don't think they can afford to start slow the way they did last year. And they had a good win in pre-season the other night, beating Shamrock Rovers. Like, they do have a decent side, but it's just a case of how good can they be, or how well can they gel together.
Yeah. Let's move on to Waterford. Very little available information, but most of last year's squad have re-signed for this year. Only 2 or 3 names seem to have dropped out. Olivia Gibson going to Cole, Lauren Walsh, as you mentioned, going to Wexford, and Ciara Kelly going to Treaty. So basically, it's as you were for Waterford. They're very secretive down there in terms of their operations, though, Aaron. Your thoughts on how they'll compete in their sophomore season?
They're very, how do you say, they talk a lot about last year being a year for growth, and this year sort of been a lot more about performances. So they've got big expectations. I know from speaking to Gary. Gary sort of said that last year they've done an awful lot of learning. They've got some really good players there. Like, we look at Fiona Bradley coming in from Cork midway through last season. Izzy Walsh was good from Chloe Atkinson. But, like, the problem with these is they're in a position that maybe even if you look at Treaty in a couple of years ago, where when Limerick come into the league, it's sort of trying to get them players in that region. I think they're going to have to do an awful lot of developing themselves to sort of be sustainable over time. I think, like, we look at them, Maeve Williams is obviously going to be a massive leader for them. They've had some really, really good performances, but then they dropped off massively in the second half of last season. I think they probably need a couple of bodies, and you're right, they're being very secretive. We'll probably have to wait until the FAI release the full squad listing before we really find out where Waterford are at. And Gary Hunt is keeping his cards close to his chest. Like, pre-season results, they've had some difficult ones, but it's hard to really judge on pre-season.
We did see a bit of that when Sligo came into the league as one of the early adoptions to the kind of, I think they brought up to 11 teams a couple of years ago. Really competitive for the first half season, and then kind of fell off for almost a year and a half. Emma, are Waterford in danger of maybe falling into that trap if things don't go well in the first couple of weeks?
I think so, but I actually have great expectation for Waterford. I actually think they'll really push on, because I'm looking at the table from last year. They were level on points at Sligo. They weren't that far off DLR, and then that's kind of really where the gap started, up to Treaty, Bowes and stuff like that. I think they have the means to do well this season and really just get into that growth. Actually, I think I am positive enough about Waterford. I think they'll get there. Yeah.
Gary says that the aim is to get to the top of that mini group. That's where the first aim is to get to. It's the top of that mini group, and then sort of try and kick on from there. And I think, you know what, I like the fact that you're coming in and talking like this about Waterford, because the one thing we don't want to be doing, it can be difficult when they don't release much information to sort of have the positive spin on it. But there's no doubt about it that so many of them players who have not played senior football very much before last year will have learned an awful lot from last year, even if you include some of the big defeats. But there was moments and glimpses that were shown, and I think they kept Athlone. They were in games against the likes of Athlone. Like, they are a decent enough side. Like, there's no reason why they can't sort of push on again. Do I think that at the minute they can potentially get above DLR? No, I think DLR will probably kick on again this year. But I think there's definitely between themselves, Sligo and Cork, they can definitely finish the top of them three.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's a fair point. And moving to the final Munster side, Cork, we stay down that neck of the woods to keep local to yourself, Emma. Not an awful lot of action coming out of Cork in terms of new signings, but some solid players re-signed. We're seeing them struggle though. Over the last couple of years, Cork probably since that cup final in, was it 17? They just haven't quite seemed to manage to kind of not push on, and it's been kind of basement level stuff on the league table since. Again, changing managers regularly doesn't help matters. Huge turnover in players. Emma, let's start with you. Maybe where do Cork go to improve this for this season? Can they push it off the bottom of the tip?
Like I said, I was so positive about Waterford. I think Cork are going to have a massive season, or at least 2 seasons of kind of getting their stuff together. And I think it's not just a women's side issue either. I think it's a club issue at this stage. Especially when you see the likes of like Jodie Griffin leaving, Anya Walsh back to Trudy as well, and you're seeing players coming in. Like, I think on paper Cork have a great squad. I just don't think we've been able to see the potential coming out of it the past few years. And I think, like, when you the table, I suppose, in the league, it's starting to lengthen a little bit from top to bottom. Like, Cork finished on 8 points last year. And I think if we kind of want the women's league to kick on, I think we just need to start kind of leveling it out a little bit. But I just think Cork could have a great team, and they have a great team on paper. I think it's just about getting the right style of play in there and getting the right people in there to make it happen for them.
Interesting. I am very curious to see how both Stella Barakowski and Sophie Liston will get on. 2 forwards, they've struggled for goals. Can they get goals? That's the question. Barakowski seemed to be scoring some goals in the Colleges League. What are they going to be like? The other question is, can Barry Ryan sort of unlock that potential that's within that squad? Because as much as you see a lot of people talk about Eva Mangan because of it's Eva Mangan in terms of the personality, in terms of the high profile, but like players like that have sort of probably come off the boil a little bit last year within Cork. And I think that's the biggest thing is, can he get the likes of Eva, Ellie Mackin, Ellie O'Brien, Heidi Mackin, these sort of players, can he get them going? Can he get them sort of performing? What do you think of Katie Irwin going from Treaty to Cork, Emma?
Katie Irwin. I love Katie. I think she's a stellar person. I just think with the last few years that we've had a treaty with goalkeepers, we had Annie Uliak. There, God, I can't even remember the years. You know what season on of it. And then we had Lisa Twomey there as well last season, who honestly was really had her side season. I just don't think she got the chance that maybe she deserved. And then she kind of was playing in the cup games, with the BFAI or the Isle Island Cup. And I think just not getting those extended periods of time consistently on the pitch may have just, and like, she's traveling up from Cork a few times a week, and like we went, like we've talked about it before, even off camera, like the travel in this league is so, especially for the women's players, traveling up to Limerick a few times a week and then not getting to play as much. I think she could be a really good signing for Cork if she gets I know she played for Cork before, re-sign if you will, but if she gets the time to play consistently.
Breifne, I've got a concern here, right? Just in terms of Cork. Jodie Griffin and Anya Walsh both only signed for Cork midway through last season, and they're already out the door. Avian Donnelly signed at the start of last season, gone middle of the season. Players who were probably commuting as well. Fiona Bradley's been back and forth to Waterford. Yeah. I'd have a lot of concern that, and the biggest problem for me is, we and you had a conversation before about, like, you look at Wilton United, you look at some of the players playing for Douglas, and you look at that sort of, Niall O'Regan tried to break that sort of Wilton Douglas sort of mold in terms of Cork football, and never really got there. Wasn't in the job long enough when the FAI coaching education job come up. It'll be interesting to see what Barry Ryan can sort of do to sort of blend that and try and get some of them players in, because there's no doubt about it that Cork has struggled to keep their best talent over the years, and it's difficult to see how they sort of hold on to them going forward without having something. And I fear for Cork early on, but I think Barry Ryan has a good reputation in women's football. I think if he can get them motivated and get them going, he can definitely get results out of that side.
We're 13 or 14 years into this project now of the Women's National League / League of Ireland Women's Premier Division. And that's a problem that Cork have never managed to solve. It started year one. Cork Women's FC, as they were called at the time, were, with all due respect to the people involved, they were terrible on the pitch. The best players in Cork were absolutely not playing with Cork. 90% of the best players in Cork were not playing with Cork. And to be honest, they haven't managed to get that number down enough to be competitive. They've no competition in some respects. Like, Limerick's hour and a half, 2 hours drive. Waterford, slightly less. And they're losing players to these teams. People are choosing to travel to these teams, or even some of the, like, to the likes of Cove or to Kerry in the new league. People are prepared to travel those distances rather than line out with Cork when they'd make that Cork team, that's a worry. And I don't know if Barry Ryan, and it's nothing to do with him personally, it's because of his profile coming in from the men's game. He's high profile within the sport, but we've said this so many times, women's soccer and men's soccer, football, whatever you want to call them, are not the same sport. They're the same game.
I'd say to you, though, the one thing I would say on him is he's got a reputation in terms of schools football within women. So he's known in there, and he would have been in Cork's women's team last year. It's a difficult job for anybody.
I just think there's politically, I call them more influential people within the club game in Cork that are going to win out 90% of the time because of the way it's structured. It's a problem the League of Ireland has had historically that's really been fixed in a lot of places over the last decade or so. Cork is just one of those weird situations. And I think ultimately it's going to have to wait until the local clubs decline a little bit and the people involved maybe step away. That could take another 10 years. I don't think Cork can wait that long. I think they need to get something to do that. And it needs to be adults sitting down and treating it like the interest should be in the best interest of the players and the young girls.
I'm going to throw the two years on the spot. There was two players that played in the Cork City last got to the cup final in 2020. There's two players of the current team, starting lineup and subs, who are currently playing for Cork. Any ideas? One of them started and one of them was on the bench.
I'm going to say Ciara McNamara.
Sorry, there's three.
I caught you out your own question.
She's technically not announced yet, but she, according to FAI Connect, she is there. There's three of them. That's one.
Nadine Sayward?
I'm probably just be picking random people because I'd say I was about like 16 at the time.
And one of them was quite young. No.
No.
Sean McCarthy?
Actually, McCarthy was on the bench. So there's one more.
So I was right. Thank you.
There is one more who started.
Sorry, I didn't hear you say that. I have, to be fair, full honesty, I have the list in front of me, so I'm going down through it. I'm thinking Sophie Liston, perhaps.
Yeah. So they got to a cup final in 2020, and four players are still at the club. Four players who were involved that day are still there.
Yeah.
If you look back to when they got to the cup final in 2017, it's even less. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Ciara McNamara and Kate O'Donovan are the only two from who played in that cup final in 2017 are still at Cork.
And Kate O'Donovan's only going back to Cork after a couple of years away. So,
and Sophie Liston's only going back after time in America. So, like, they've struggled to sort of build on that success of reaching cup finals, and that's where your biggest concern is. And when is the next time Cork are going to get to a cup final in the women's football? It's really hard to see right now.
Yeah, can't say that unless you get a very lucky draw, but then you never know. Stranger things have happened, Aaron. Let's move on. Enough depression session down on Lee's side. Let's go to Bohemians. That's one of the ones we've picked for tonight. We'll touch on Sligo Rovers before we wrap up. But Bows, Emma, we're going to go to you first because obviously you've been following them last year, the Albin factor, having left Treaty, you would have worked closely with him there. He moved to Bows last year, 2 cup finals, some really exciting pushing on for them. In terms of the players that are coming in, again, Aaron has done the homework on this, but Aoife Brophy comes in from Rovers, Aoife Sheridan comes in from Shells, Ciara Wexford, Sophie Clarke from Shamrock Rovers as well, and Emer Laverty, probably the signing of their season so far. She was quite impressive in what was a weak enough Sligo Rovers side last year. Thoughts on how they're going to get on this year?
Yeah, I remember only watching a few of the Bowls games last year, and one of them was against Wexford in the Cup, and then against Treaty on the way to the Cup. I think, like, where they finished last season, they were kind of in the realm of Treaty and that kind of like mush in the middle, as I like to call it. I feel like the table was very much a 3-factor tier in the sense of that's the way the Women's League is at the moment. I think, like, I'm looking at the squad there, like, and I said Cork had a good squad on paper. If anything like that, Bows have a great squad on paper. And I think they'd be kind of expected to do well, and seeing the signs are coming in. They do have a few going out as well. Like, I think, again, they've kind of had the managerial change as well, and you can say the same for many teams in the league. But I think for most teams now that are caught in that mid-tier is to kind of push on these next few seasons and get out of that mid-tier and to challenge the likes of Shelbourne and Athlone.
Aaron, your thoughts on Bows and maybe the players who've left more so than the players who've come in and could be the talking point?
for me, the biggest talking point for Bohs this year is, and I'm gonna go there. It's Alban Heysel leaving when he left. I was away. I'd sort of stepped away from football the back end of last season, and I was over in Belgium, and I had a chat with Alan Murphy because there was a bit of, is he going, is he not going? And I'd sort of said to you that night, I'm hearing, I'd heard this. I just spoke to Alan. Alan was like, no, as far as I'm concerned, staying. Everything was grand. Then all of a sudden, a couple of weeks before pre-season starts, Alban drops the bomb, gone. Alan Murphy's come in there. Like, they were always on the back foot. But for me, before I even go through the squad, the one thing I will say is there's a bit more pressure on Bohs this year because this Bohs project has to start delivering, considering they've shown getting to cup finals, doing well in certain games. But like, they were in that midriff for a reason last year because they absolutely lacked consistency. They had a great squad, but they just lacked consistency. In terms of the players out, I think the surprise is probably Roisin McGovern. But then again, when you look at sort of, she's friends with some of the Rovers players, it's not really a big surprise. I think Katie McCarron, that was probably one that we were a little bit more surprised with. But then again, the way it sort of worked out for her towards the end of last year, I don't think many people would have been that shocked. Holding on to the Hannah Healy's, the Ava Brennans, because there's a bit of a perception within, and people will say this, a bit of perception in players who've left Shells all of a sudden, when Shells come knocking or come looking again, they will potentially go back. And I think that was probably a bit of a test from the likes of Bohs. Can they hold on to the Hannah Healy's, Ava Brennan's? I think they've got a really, really good squad. I just think for them, realistically, they need to be pushing on top 3, top 4 this year, be consistent, be pushing for silverware, because they put a lot of money, a lot of focus into it. You did mention Emer Lafferty. I think that's a great signing. I think Lafferty is a great sign. I think Ciara Marrell sort of slot straight in for Roisin McGovern. Will add a bit more pace. Played alongside Lisa Murphy before. Like, I think Bohs on paper, they're a really, really strong side. But the question for me is, can they get that little bit of control or a little bit of consistency? Because those times last year where Bohs were playing great football, but just couldn't necessarily see games out. You look at the one that I pinpoint the most is Athlone off the back of Champions League when Bohs were 2 up and all of a sudden Athlone get back into the game. Like, if they can turn them sort of draws into wins, they're a very, very capable side, but it's a big if, and I think it's a big job for Alan Murphy to get that bit of consistency, but he's a real footballing man, and he's been there for a couple of years. Was there under Alban, under Ken. It's his 3rd year there. I think he's the right man for the job. Yeah,
I think Emer Lafferty, you mentioned, is based in Dublin and commuted to Sligo, which is a 6-hour round trip. You know, it's absolutely nuts what she was doing last year in terms of the time commitment. And like Emma, you've talked about players doing that. Dublin to Sligo is nearly twice the distance from Limerick to Cork. Like, it's absolutely crazy. But it kind of makes sense for her. She's probably good enough to play at that level. Probably good enough to kind of push on and make that team as well. So interesting. Let's go to Sligo Rovers.
She probably never hit her potential because of the fact that she was doing that much traveling. But then again, you look at some of the players who've left Bohs this off season. Kelsey McQuillan and Abby Rooney going the opposite way, with Gav Hughes sort of going to Sligo. And like, it's a lot of traveling for young players and young kids. And I think for Bohs, listen, good players need to hit the ground running, but it's one that I'll watch closely. I don't think I'll be predicting Shamrock Rovers to finish below Bohs this year, though.
Yeah,
like I did last year.
you nearly got caught out in that one. In terms of the final team we're looking at tonight, is Sligo Rovers. So obviously Laverty's at the door. Amber Harley's gone to Treaty. We've already talked about them. Sarah Kieran is not going to be involved this year. A couple of others have left the club too. You mentioned the 2 that have come from Bohs. Emma Duffy's coming from Galway. It's much of a muchness as to what they had last year. I know we spoke to Emma Hansberry, Aaron, at the launch, and she was quite positive about the mood in the camp and how much kind of positive momentum they've got from Gavin's appointment. Obviously, Bohs under 19 manager last year. He steps up to the first team this year. Maybe because he didn't get the top job in Bohs, would that be a thing, or was this more realistic?
I think he's probably a little bit of a. If he'd have stayed, could he have been a contender? He was already gone before Alban had sort of. But the thing about it is, like, I know from speaking to different managers, Sligo tried to get there was a lot of different managers sort of involved or offer the gig in the sense of, but the problem is it's a big commute, it's a big trip. Like, it's especially considering they're not full time to the extent of where they're going to be living in Sligo and sort of able to live off football and stuff like that. So it's a big travel for him to sort of make that commitment. Like I think we've seen with some managers when they've had to go to sort of a different club to get a first opportunity, it can work very well. I'd be interested to hear about your guys' opinion on the fact of, you know, a Dublin-based manager going and taking Sligo.
Emma, I'll let you go first. I could get in trouble.
Oh, I just think it's kind of like I've said before. I just think there's so much movement with managers around the league now. In terms of like the league is crying out for managers. I think there's a big push in terms of actually getting people to get their licenses and stuff like that. I think again, Sligo have potential to do well. Like I was really impressed with Paddy McDaid last season. I think it's a great club for kind of in it, not to be like that person, but in youth development. I think they're great. And I'm seeing one of the girls, I can't recall which one I was seeing in front of me, that's doing great vlogs on TikTok about their pre-season and stuff like that at the moment at Sligo. Like I don't know about the Dublin coming to Sligo thing, like it is as Katie Lawley would say, east to west, whatever side it is, but in her geography. But look, I think at this stage, like I just think the women, like if he has the right tools and stuff like that to build it and to help the women's league to where it should be, I'd be happy enough with that.
Yeah, I think I suppose I am local to Sligo. I'm half an hour, 40 minutes down the road, and been involved in the club previously. So I'll caveat everything I say with that. I think ideally you have someone from the region. I think Steve Feeney came in at the start, and the reason why it was so successful was because he was local. The previous underage managers, I know Damon Carney was there for a season. He'd obviously been involved with the league with Castlebar back in the day. He came in, set up the under-17s in the first year with us, and was very, very good in terms of making sure the best young girls from around the area were brought in. I think there's been a struggle, maybe because of the perceived success or lack of success with that team since that first season. It's just been difficult to get people to commit to be involved in the women's game over maybe what they're doing within the men's games. And there's so many opportunities within the National League underage structures now for coaches to get involved, either as a head coach or an assistant coach, that maybe the pool just isn't quite deep enough to stretch to the women's, particularly if there's a perception that they're not going to do well, rightly or wrongly. And I think that's the biggest problem they have. And I think we've seen Tommy Hewitt go in there. We've seen Steve Feeney come back. I don't think that was the right move for the club or for Steve. I'm not surprised to see him gone again this year. I think he came in to fill a gap because nobody else was available in the region. There are people here, but it's about making it attractive enough. I would be worried, and I know we've spoken off air about this, Aaron, about Dublin manager coming down. That's not a problem per se. If he's good enough to do the job, brilliant. My issue is if he's got 2 or 3 girls coming down in the car with him for training. If he falls out or he doesn't make the end of the season, do they make the end of the season? And then where are they? And that's a big problem for me. I think the girls he's brought in are quality. I think Abby Rooney is going to add a lot to the team. So will Kelsey McQuillan. But will they still be there if things don't work out? And Sligo have a bit of a tradition of things not quite working out for a manager who's making that commute if things are going pear-shaped in the last quarter of the season. That's my biggest worry.
I think he had to take the job when it's offered to him, and I hope it works for Gav. But it's a big commitment to be on the road for so long and so much. Like I've spoke to many managers who've been doing commutes. Like I remember having conversations with Alban, having conversations with the likes of Sean Byrne, Patre, and sort of talking about that being in the car. And it's very difficult. It's not as easy as just rock up the train or go to the other side of Dublin, and like. Especially if they're going 2 days a week and then they have a game at the weekend. And like I do have that concern over the players as well, as you'd say, but like it's difficult. And the one thing I will say, I from a Sligo viewpoint is Sligo are the sort of club where they can't afford to lose that 1-2 quality players. They just can't. And I know FAI Connect have Muireann Devaney sort of registered for Sligo Rovers, but we haven't seen any sort of movement. Is she there? Is she not there? And I think if she's not there, it'd be a massive, massive loss. And I think
she's too busy scoring goals for Leitrim at the moment, Aaron. Leave her alone for a while, will you? Once Leitrim get promoted to Division 4 in the ladies' football, she can go play soccer. That's fine. We release her at that stage.
Like I just think it's difficult, and I think like Emma, you sort of as somebody who would follow treaty around the country, even as when you're working with them or you're going as a fan, you'd know from that point of view of the travel going all over the country, like. Especially if you're a player having to do that additional, say, coming to Dublin back and forth, having to do that twice extra a week, like, it takes its toll.
Yeah, and funnily enough, I think Sligo was the one I had the most away days at. Like, it was really weird. Somehow I always ended up on the bus to Sligo. But like, it does take its toll, and like, no one wants to be on those buses. Like, they're so like, and it's only 2 or 3 hours spin from Limerick. Like, we're probably lucky in a sense from Trudy. It's not too bad. But then you have to think as well that there's players playing at these clubs and then traveling to Limerick or wherever, and then to travel up to Sligo. Like, it takes its toll after a while, and you're thinking, God, another one to Sligo. We're away again. So like, it does. And
lovely. Sligo's lovely, Emma. I don't know what you're talking about.
I've been there. No, but it does take its toll, and I could see why people may go into it. I wouldn't say blindly, but they get so much into the season, they're thinking, God, I can't do this anymore. Like, because it does take its toll.
Absolutely. We will touch on all the other teams, 6 more to come next week. Of course, there is a small matter of actual bit of football being played as well. The President's Cup will get the season started, at least for the senior sides, in 10 days' time on Sunday week in Athlone Town Stadium. And it's the almost now annual pairing of Athlone Town and Shelbourne in that curtain raiser for the season. We're going to catch up with Jess Gargan of Shells, and here's what we had to chat with her just a little bit earlier. 2 weeks out from the start of the league with the President's Cup, which takes place for the 4th time this year, and it is Athlone and Shelbourne, as it has been in 2 of the other 3 years. We're joined this week by one of the Shell squad, Jess Gargan, who obviously featured in that competition last year. Jess, you're very welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Well, you've been around the league a long time. Surprised we haven't had you on the podcast before now. I think maybe you might have been on in a former life, were you? In a different guise.
Possibly, yeah. I've done a few. I don't know which name, so possibly, yeah.
I think you may have been on with a former host of the show. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. You're very welcome. Exciting times at Shells, coming back in second in the league last year. Athlone, you've kind of had a couple of swipes at them in various cup competitions over the last couple of years, but always nice to get a chance to maybe get one over on them and put it up to them on the opening day of the season.
Yeah, definitely. You're right. It's always kind of been neck on neck with Athlone the last few years. This time last year, we played them in the President's Cup final as well, and we beat them, but went on in the league to not get 3 points after that. So we'll be looking to get off to a strong start, of course, and yeah, just build momentum then going into the next week for the league to start.
Everything that probably could have went wrong last year for Shelbourne went wrong. I think it's fair to say, Jess. Big injuries in big games at big times. Probably squad depth let us down an awful bit last year. This year seems to be building quite nicely as you build ahead to that President's Cup in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, last year was tough for many reasons. Yeah, on the pitch stuff, off the pitch stuff. I think things went against us injury wise. And then 2 or 3 key players all within the space of a few weeks got injured, and that was a turning point in our season, to be honest. So I think in the off season, a lot has changed, and we brought in new players, but we also lost a good few players as well. So I think we're building on a squad, but squad depth is something we definitely still need, and probably we have a few younger players as well, and 23s players that are training with us. So hopefully they'll make up, bring in a bigger squad this year. So if things like that happen again, we have a greater number of people to fall back on. Yeah, definitely.
And how are you feeling about the league coming into it? Obviously, we're coming into a second year of there being 12 teams. Like, I remember when I first started following the women's game, it was only 10 teams in the league. Is it time for you to maybe get back to the winning ways and knock Athlone off that podium?
Yeah, definitely, Jesus. I think anyone who knows me knows how competitive I am. So the last few years have been tough. You say, you finished second, you didn't do too bad, but like second means nothing really. And I think there's a few of us in the squad that are like that. So really buzzing to get going. And like we were just saying there, the off season is long. You get into pre-season and it's a good few weeks. You have your friendlies, but it's not really the same as a league game or a cup game. So really excited to get going. And the 12 teams in the league, it's good to see that it's progressing as well. And there's more games, which is great too. So really looking forward to getting going. And listen, Athlone have been great, and you can't take it away from them. They have a really good squad with so much talent. And they've, to be honest, they've deserved to win the league the last few years and all the success they've had. But yeah, it's, I guess, my goal and our goal as Shells to kind of get back where we were a few years ago and get back to winning ways, because that's when you enjoy football the most. We've had some great memories over the years and we want to get back there. So yeah, really excited to get going.
Of course, Athlone Town, the opposition in the President's Cup in 2 weeks' time. They'll be kind of the team out there to be beaten all season from your point of view. A couple of familiar faces in the opposition dressing room, though, that maybe you wouldn't have expected 3 or 4 months ago to be facing when you qualified for this competition, particularly maybe Noelle Murray wearing black and blue. Will you have her black and blue by the end of the game?
She'll have me black and blue, no doubt. It's going to be a weird one for sure, playing against the likes of Noelle and a few of the other girls. Jesus, you never would have expected Noelle Murray to be going to Athlone Town. But at the same time, she's one of my good friends and was a great teammate over the years. Can you blame her for going? No, you can't. It was out of her hands, to be honest. So, you'd never hold a grudge on that. But yeah, it'll be definitely weird to play against her. But listen, she's a great player. We all know that. And on the day, hopefully we get the better of her. But she'll be definitely one to watch when we play them next week.
Jess, this is probably the first year that we've maybe seen major overhauls within the Shelbourne squad. And if you look at the sheer volume of players that have gone out the door this year, in terms of both senior players, some underage players as well, how's that been? Because you've lost quite a few, brought in some really, really good players as well, players who've been at the club before. Like, how is that from a player viewpoint? What does that do to the squads? Does it freshen it up a little bit? Does it bring in new energy? Like, what's that like?
Yeah, like, I won't lie, it's been tough. The change, like, I think when you take the emotion out of it, yes, it's just football, and some players come and go, and managers come in, and clubs make decisions, whether you agree with them or not. But for me, I think it was tougher than I imagined. And the off season's long, so it happened a few months ago, and you think, when you come in to pre-season, it's all kind of forgotten about nearly, and you move on. But I actually think I probably struggled the first few weeks of pre-season, just from an emotional point of view. Some of them are my best friends, and you forget that they're actually gone and you're not going to see them 4 days a week. And you go from seeing somebody so much to not really seeing them at all. And like I was saying previously, you've created great memories. So the change was tough, I won't lie. But in terms of the new people that have come in, listen, we've made some great signings. Maggie coming back, and Becky and Aoife, who obviously have experience in the league. And even though they're young, you forget how young they are. Like, they've come in and they've really hit the ground running with us on the pitch, but also off the pitch. I think we lost, 5 massive characters last year, and we definitely needed to bring more characters in. So they've really helped with that. And then we've made a few other signings as well, and younger players coming through, and even younger players from last year are coming in with more confidence and a bit more personality. So no, listen, it's definitely it's freshened things up, and it's a fresh squad. But it was, the change was tough, to be honest. But yeah, no, listen, we've had the last few weeks together, we're gelling together, and it's coming together this week.
It's obviously going to be a massive first game for you back at Tulka in the league, facing Drogheda United. Obviously, Sean Russell at the helm, who was Drogheda United's manager last year. How are you feeling going into that game? Because I know you've had some titanic tussles with Drogheda over the years, and especially as Drogheda have kind of gotten stronger over the years as well.
Yeah, Treaty have always been a tough game for us, and they've always set up well against us, whether it was under Sean or anybody else. So I'd say it'd be a weird one for Sean too. First game of the season against his old team. But listen, we won't take them lightly, that's for sure. I was just looking at results there. I think they beat Galway at the weekend in a friendly too. So they've some really good attacking players and exciting young players too coming through. So definitely a tough game. Happy it's in Tulka Park for the first game as well. But we'll be obviously facing Athlone first, and then we'll be all focused on them. But yeah, it won't be an easy game. And to be honest, I don't think there's many easy games or games where you go in thinking you're going to win these days in the league, which is great too. So yeah, we know we're up for a tough game against them.
There's a lot more movement in teams now. I suppose the move to professionalism a couple of years back, we're seeing players make decisions maybe for footballing reasons rather than friendly reasons. If you catch my drift, people stayed in clubs for friends, for colleagues, kind of people that they were close to, and they were happy to sit on the bench. That doesn't seem to be a thing anymore. I suppose you yourself took a sabbatical, shall we say, from Tulka Park for a season. What was the logic, I suppose, A, in leaving, and B, coming back? Was it footballing reasons why you kind of chose to move on to get that opportunity, maybe because you were getting games at Shels before you left?
Yeah, I think part of it was a footballing reason. I think I was probably at a time in my career where I probably needed a change, which might sound weird because the year before at Shels was probably one of my best years. We won the double, we won the league, we won the cup, and I had a great year myself as well. But I guess, I don't know, there was just things that I wasn't happy with. Not all footballing reasons, off the pitch things too, and things that I thought at the time mattered to me. Hence why I went to Rovers, and standards are very good there. They're obviously a well-known club, and I got there and had a great year. Don't get me wrong, but I think I really learned why I enjoy football that year, and it was more to do with the people I was playing with and the club I was playing for and the people around the club. And for me, I think in that year, although I enjoyed it at Rovers and the teammates and the staff were great and everything, I didn't have that same feeling. At Shels, I was part of a team where everybody really, really wants to win, and there was that special bond that we've all played together for years. And you're right, like friends were there, but it wasn't the friends reason why I came back, but it was more just that feeling I had going out on a Saturday and really looking forward to training and looking forward to games. I think for myself anyway, like football isn't my full-time gig. I work, I have a busy life, so football is my enjoyment, and it's the thing that I need to look forward to. And the minute I stop enjoying it is the minute that I have to take a step back and look at things. And I think that was a big reason going back to Shels, was just I realised that I enjoyed it there more than I realised, and there was external factors that I thought were big to me, but when it came down to it, it was really the people. So that's why I came back. Yeah.
In terms of that, like a lot of people can say at times, if you look from the outside, Shels can be quite an intimidating place, but like you don't necessarily see a lot of young players when they go to the club and they're playing at the club, they don't tend to leave the club. They tend to stay there for quite a long time and sort of spend a lot of their career. Like I remember when you look back as far as like Alex Kavanagh, when she broke through, probably the most appearances for the club now at this stage. But like, what is it about that group that sort of makes you want to come back? Because there's no doubt pre-season, especially when you say football's not your number one, you have a life outside of it. What is it that makes you want to come back every year and work hard to sort of get to where you were in previous seasons, them sort of performances? Because you're starting to add goals, you're starting to add different things to your game, you're developing each year. What is it that drives you?
I have such a winning mentality. I like to win, and there's nothing quite like the feeling that football gives you. There's no feeling like it. You can work in jobs and you can be successful in work and outside of work and whatnot, but I think football brings the competitiveness, but then the joy, and to be able to do something like that with a brilliant bunch of people, there's honestly nothing you can compare to. And I think that's why some of the girls that are still going now in their 30s, it's hard to just give up. And for me, that's what keeps me motivated is thinking back to the times we won the league, or thinking back to moments in the league where we scored a late minute winner. Like I always remember the late minute winner we got in Tolka a few years ago against Peamount, and it's things like that, and it's moments and feelings for me that just stay with me and keep me going, I guess. And then obviously having a great team, we're all putting in the work together. It's a very much a team sport, and we've all had them feelings together, both the positives, the highs and the lows. And we felt losing over the last few years, how it's made us feel. So I think just being so competitive, and even last year, yes, you can feel down at the end of the season, like we underperformed, but it motivates you again to go next year. So just the feeling it brings and the joy and the memories, to be honest.
And so obviously you're heading into a massive game with President's Cup. How are you feeling ahead of it, firstly, I suppose, and how important is it for you to lay down that marker this coming weekend? Yeah,
listen, like as I said, there's a lot of change in the camp at Shels. Under no illusion that we mightn't hit the ground running on day one. Pre-season has been that time to kind of gel together. Sean has a different style of playing than Owen did last year. Players have come in, like I've nearly feel like I've joined a new team sometimes as well. So there's players coming in from everywhere. So it's a time, I guess, it's our first competitive game. So we're excited, apprehensive obviously about it, and nervous. Athlone are a great team, but I guess it's a test run essentially for us. Obviously we want to win, but it's the first competitive game as a group. And there's younger players involved too, that this might be their first game. So it's a good game to get the hype going, get excited, and then knowing that the league starts the week after, just to get things ready to go. So we're excited. But again, it's a new team for us, really, with new management. So it might take a bit of time as well.
Well, I'm delighted to hear you've got a winning mentality. We couldn't have you on the show ahead of your big rivals in 2 weeks' time against Athlone without making some form of competition on the show, because you can win all the President's Cups and leagues and FY Cups you want, but this is what it's all about, Jess, right? So we've seen some of your teammates. We won't mention names to kind of protect the guilty, but there's no geography in this, I promise, right?
Good.
So we're not gonna absolutely stitch you up, although not quite stitched up, but you know what I mean. We're not going to stitch you up. I think they're all President's Cup related questions, right?
Okay.
And so you're going to get 5 today, and next week we have a guest from Athlone. She's going to get 5, and whoever wins the penalty shootout wins our President's Cup, right?
Fair enough.
Not quite sure who our president is, but you get the idea. Okay, so 5 questions. First one up. How many teams, now you probably know this because we've already talked about it off air before you came on, but how many teams have played in the President's Cup in its history, the Women's President's Cup in its history? Yeah.
I think it's 3.
Correct. We had kind of given you that. We'd spoken about it. The lads haven't seen the questions either, so that's fine. Can you name them?
Athlone, Shells, and you did name the other one before. Peamount, maybe?
Yes, yeah, we were. There's no points for that, but we'll.
If you didn't get your former club there, to be very surprised.
Yeah, it'd be fairly rough. The first decider went to penalties in 2023. Now you weren't at the club, but
I was at the game. I was at the game supporting.
Well, then you've no reason to get this wrong. Who scored the winning penalty on the day? Who scored the final penalty on the day? Actually, it wasn't the final penalty, but it was the winning penalty.
Yeah, I remember Shells missed their last penalty. Who scored the winning? I'm gonna guess Kate Slevin.
No, it was Muireann Devaney. Muireann Devaney scored the winning penalty that day. So 1 out of 2. No, question 3: which player has scored the most goals in the Women's President's Cup?
Oh, trying to think last year who scored. I'm going to say Maddie Gibson, but I'm actually not sure.
No, incorrect. 2 players. I would take it either. Chloe Singleton got 2 goals in one final, and Roisin Malloy scored 1 in 2 separate finals. So they actually are the joint top scorers in the competition. Last year, you came on as a sub in the final. Who did you replace?
Oh, Lucio O'Rourke, maybe?
Correct. Very impressive. 2 out of 4. And then one which is more about the president than the actual President's Cup.
Oh, hell.
The current president of Ireland is Catherine Connolly.
Thank God you named her. Thank God.
I'm not holding out much hope for the answer to the question then. In which Irish county was she born?
Oh, Jesus. I'm going to say Laois. I have no idea.
No, incorrect, unfortunately. I'll give you a clue. The previous president was from there as well.
You might as well be talking to the wall.
Okay. Galway was the answer. Galway was the answer. Yeah. So, so 2 out of 5. It's not a great target for Athlone to aim for. But interesting to see how that pans. We have done a tiebreaker in the event of a draw. We'll only air that if we need to. But listen, Jess, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Just before you let it go, Breifne, one other question.
There's no point.
Do you still hold that hope, Jess? Because I know there's a lot of talk last year of potential Ireland call-ups. Do you still hold that hope that could come one day?
Yeah.
Short and sweet.
You know what? I actually got called up last year, like last minute into the States, but I was carrying the smallest of knocks in my back. Like, I mean, I was only out for a week, but it was the week that I was out, so I couldn't travel on a plane to the States and end up playing because it was my back that was the issue. So the hope, is there. And in fairness to Carla, like, she's always kept me in her plans and talked to me. So, there's no complaints on that end. So the hope is definitely there. It's just, obviously playing full-time abroad, you'd be a bit more ambitious or a bit more hopeful that it's more like tangible. But in fairness, last year I did get that call, and I was honestly raging I couldn't go. It was, as I say, it was the tiniest of knocks, but again, just with the injury it was and the place the game was, it was just too far to travel for it. But no, the hope is always there, and listen, that's part of the motivation as well, that keeps me going every year, and doing the extra bit of training on your own, that kind of thing. Because playing for Ireland, that one, the 2 caps I have, that was one of the best moments of my life. So yeah, listen, the hope's always there, but I'm also realistic. Like I don't get hung up on it either. But yeah, no, it's definitely there, of course.
Well, Jess, thanks so much for joining us. The very best of luck on Sunday week, Saturday week, next week. Yeah. In the President's Cup final, and I suppose we're all hoping that you put up a good performance. We're not going to pick a side at this point.
I'm biased.
Jess, thanks a million for joining us.
Thanks, lads. Appreciate it.
Jess Gargan there, one of the, I suppose, the mainstays at that Shell side. So lovely to watch her attacking from defence. She scored some absolute cracking goals last year as well. Aaron, your thoughts on how that cup final is going to go? We haven't heard the Athlone side of things yet, but it's always a bit of a cracker to start the season. 2 good sides.
I just want to see who comes out black and blue. Is it Noel or is it Jess? That's the only thing I want to see. Do you know what? I said it to Jess before we spoke to her, and I sort of said to you guys, like, I haven't been to a President's Cup final yet, and I'm disappointed in missing another one. Unfortunately, I'm away on our covering Ireland, but like, it's a great tradition. It's great to see it in the women's calendar. I think it's a good opportunity, and while it necessarily doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, it's a trophy on the line, and you're going to want to win it. I think that's fair. I think everybody wants to win it.
Well, I think when Athlone won the first one 3 years ago, it's totally unexpected. Nobody really gave them hope in hell of winning it. And to see the trajectory they've been on for the last 3 years, with the confidence they got from that win, I think that's probably where it's more important for the side that's maybe not fancied.
Yeah, and I think even Emma, I think that's the sort of thing when you look at it even from a viewpoint of other clubs, it sort of gives other clubs who necessarily weren't where Athlone were or weren't at where Athlone are now, gives them that aspiring to sort of get there, because you remember when Athlone first went to the league in 2020, they were nowhere near that, and now look at them now, 2-time champions, 2-time cup winners. It gives that opportunity for the other clubs.
Emma, would that have been something that the girls at Trady, for example, in your experience over the last couple of seasons, would have been kind of vaguely aware that game was happening and following it and kind of saying, could we get into that next year? Was that a conversation ever that took place?
Definitely not that I heard anyway, but I wasn't exactly loud in the dressing room all the time. So, but for me, like, when we talk about cups in general, like, I think the FAI Cup always brings such excitement in that term. Like, it gives, I suppose, the clubs room to dream, and like the All Ireland Cup as well. It's great for the league as well. So I definitely think it's something that they should be aspiring to in terms of treaty. But I always think it's a great. I love a cup competition. I just think anything can happen, and it's such great. And I think as well, it happening before the league starts is great, especially with those 2 teams. It's a great way indicator. And as I said to Jess, of lay down the law. What are we looking at the season coming ahead like?
Yeah, we will let you away as well with the comment about how there was only 10 teams in the league when you started following. Myself and Aaron remember the heady days of this fantastic 6 teams back in the early days of the competition, and before it.
You know what? I'm going to throw her on the spot.
Oh, this is unfair. I know it's coming. But come on, hit her with it.
Can you name every club that's won the League of Ireland?
Oh, that's not what I expected you to ask.
Oh, I have read the media guide. That helps. And I remember seeing it, but I probably couldn't. No, I definitely couldn't. But I like to think I'm like youthful and all that stuff. So
I'll give you a clue, Emma. They're all still in the league, and most of them have won it in the last couple of seasons.
One of them isn't still in the league.
Well, Raheny Shells is the same club.
Yeah, I know that much. I knew that
I've just given you 2, Emma. Go on, keep going.
Oh, Athlone. Are we talking about win the league? Yeah, I was going to say we're still on the cup. Yeah, Athlone, Shelbourne, Shamrock Rovers.
Nope.
They have won the FAI Cup, but in a former life. Yeah, before you were born.
Well, I know it's not treaty. Have Cork won?
No,
I don't think so either. How many teams have won it?
6, maybe.
Oh god, I've probably named all the 6 that are not. So we'll take it.
That was cool.
Yeah, Peamount, Shells, Athlone. Wexford Youths have won 3 or 4 times. There's a few in there. All right. Raheny, of course, pre-Shell's days.
Yeah.
I would have asked you a much worse question. The 6 teams in the first season. Can you name them?
Oh no, but the thing is, I know it deep down. I'm a good reader. I read stuff.
You were about 6 when the league was formed. It's fine.
Exactly. It's just my youthful glow.
Yeah, absolutely. We go with that. So let's talk obviously about the biggest news of the week, which was the arrival of the Women's Development League to the Irish football stratosphere. It's a huge advance. On paper, at least, maybe not so much in terms of practicalities. We're seeing under 23 teams from the 12 Premier Division sides. We're seeing first teams from 9 new clubs. The clubs that were in the 19s league plus Drogheda have a new team at this level for the first time. In practice, the players are largely the same as last year's under 19 squads, with a couple of additions in certain places. Even with the ability to play overage players, the clubs have really gone with that youth development model, which is fantastic to see for the longevity of the league and where this league could be in a couple of years. No promotion relegation, so that's all the kind of the nuts and bolts of it. 9 new clubs, a couple of really impressive results. 1 or 2 kind of Tonkins like we might have expected, where I think Drogheda got badly beaten by Bohemians 7-0 I think in one game, and there was a couple of other heavy scorelines against the new first teams effectively. But 2 really exciting results I found that kind of, because we were a bit worried when we saw the first scores coming through, Aaron, yesterday morning. Dundalk had a massive win, 6-0 winners over Sligo Rovers, and we're going to be chatting to one of their heroes of their opening day victory. Hat-trick she came on in the 70th minute, scored a hat-trick with 5 or 6 minutes to spare. Pretty impressive work. We're going to hear from Sophie Hanlon in just a couple of moments, and we'll also hear from the head of women's development in Finn Harps. Paddy McDaid will be joining us in just a couple of moments as well. But initially, Aaron, let's stick the results up on the screen from the weekend. Some big wins there. Bows, as we mentioned, 7-0 winners over Drogheda. Galway running out 4-1 winners over Peas. Finn Harps and Shells with a 2-2 draw. Great start for the Donegal side. Breifne and Wexford also a draw, 1-1 there. Good result for Breifne and their first outing at this level. Cove beaten by Shamrock Rovers 5-1. CK United 2, Waterford 3, while Dundalk with that big win over Sligo. Cork City 3-1 winners over St. Patrick's Athletic, and DLR with a big win over Kerry in that particular game. The 2 group tables, they're all the results across both divisions. Obviously, 3 sides in Group A at the top of the table: Bows, Dundalk and Galway with their wins. DLR, Shamrock Rovers, Cork and Waterford top of Group B. And the fixtures, just while we have them for next week: Athlone play Bohemians, Sligo play Finn Harps, Drogheda Dundalk in a loud derby. 2 big differences in their results last week. It'll be interesting to see how they go for them this week. Peamount and Longford, their first win, their game, of course, with Mayo, fell by the wayside after Mayo withdrew during the week ahead of the start of the competition. Shells and Galway United do battle while Waterford host Cove in a Munster derby. Shamrock Rovers will play host to Cork City at Roadstone. Wexford and CK United in a local derby in the southeast. While Pats and DLR in a capital derby, and Treaty and Bray will do battle in the Manor Fields in Limerick. So some big games over the first 2 weekends. Obviously, the people we're going to be talking in a minute, they kind of stand out. But your thoughts, maybe start with you, Emma, in terms of how the results went over the weekend and kind of how important this is to the whole ecosystem of women's football in the country.
Yeah, I think obviously I'll be rooting for Trudy and everything like that to do well, but I follow a lot of the clubs in terms of women's development down south anyway. I think I was a bit surprised by Kerry and Cove. I expected them to do a little bit better, especially on that Kerry side, because I know that they've had their kind of women's pathway for a little bit now as well. I know what Cove has as well, but I was following Kerry a little bit closer. I think it's going to be very interesting in terms of how and if it will level out a little bit to make it that little bit more competitive, because I know it happens at the academy level as well, but like you're looking at these teams being senior and development and all that, you don't want to see anyone kind of with the 8-1s or the 5-1s or anything like that. So I hope it does level out a bit, but I think it's great. I think having so many teams, like there's so many teams there, it's hard to keep track of at times, but I think it gives people a chance to play. It gives girls a chance to play, and it's such an exciting time for women's football that I don't see why these girls can't go out and smash it every week.
Aaron, we've seen 1 or 2 teams added to the league kind of every second year or so for the last decade. 9 new first teams, albeit very young first teams. it's exciting as a kind of neutral coming in to look at how the league is developing, to have that in a second tier, for want of a better word. It's not quite second tier, but it's going to step into that gap over the coming seasons.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking about something completely different, and it's great because
I have that effect on everybody.
Question, right?
I have that effect every time I talk.
No. It's going to tie in perfectly to you. I'm just thinking here, these guys are going to be in the FAI Cup this year.
Yeah,
I'm starting to wonder, come FAI Cup, could we see one of these sort of pull a little sneaky upset on a Premier Division team? Because I've spoke at length on this show and social media about the gap between junior football and the League of Ireland. I'm just starting to think to myself, is there a potential that we get the right team, we could see a banana skin in this FAI Cup this year? And like, that's, if I'm talking like that after week one, it can only be a positive. I think, and that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, because I'm starting to think to myself, these 9 are going into the FAI Cup. It's great. It's a great start. I have massive concerns over some of the teams, but like, some of the teams are very, very young. Some of the teams are going to take a lot of time to sort of develop and grow. Like, we talk about women's football, about the superstars reaching the top pretty quickly. But a lot of these clubs will have to do a similar to what we said about Sligo Rovers, develop, nurture their younger players. It's going to take time. And the one thing I will say is, these clubs, if they get beaten out the door for the first 6-7 games, they need to be patient. They need to understand that it's a completely different environment for a lot of these players coming into it. And like, I think as long as that there's good coaches within these clubs, I think it'll definitely benefit as time goes on. And I'm excited to see what sort of it looks at, because the under-19s league have probably gone a little bit stale. So maybe this is a bit of a refresh or rejig that's needed. But the biggest thing, as you said, is the 9 new clubs. That to me is what's sort of really important, because we had conversations over the years about, I don't want to see another club coming into the league just yet, in terms of, that's the one thing I've sort of said, I don't want to see clubs just rushed into the league and then all of a sudden we see massive results that aren't great. Whereas now this gives these clubs an opportunity to sort of go, okay, one season we'll get here, next season we'll get here, 2 or 3 years time, they could be ready. And by that stage, we're talking our bottom 2-3 teams in the Premier Division are probably in trouble when these other clubs have sort of built up and fostered their players into that sort of environment that they need. And I think it's a positive. I think it's a positive all around. I'm excited for it. I think it's good for women's football. It's great to see, like, there's additional funding coming in to make sure that this is sustainable through the likes of UEFA. And like, I think it's really important, because the one, like I'd said it on social media today, and I sent it to you as well, like, we've seen Athlone have a great year in Europe and sort of put us nearly on the verge of having a second team in Europe. Whereas there has to be something for people to aspire to when it comes to women's football, because like, you're talking less than 1% are going to make it to senior women's internationals. So they need to have that opportunity for that next pathway for the next group of players to come and play National League. And over time, if we get the League of Ireland to 2 divisions, it's even more players who are going to be able to play senior football. And I think it's great.
Yeah. Now, just to clarify, Ireland does have 2 spots in the UEFA competitions for next season. That was confirmed.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, 100% confirmed. It was mentioned at the League Awards pre-Christmas. Mark Scanlon talked about it. So a huge addition to the whole thing. I think we tweeted about it at the time, but it wasn't even new news then. But I had missed it. Let's maybe hear from the horse's mouth. Hat-trick hero Hanlon, I've been working on that for a while. The alliteration is strong with this one. She spoke to us. We hear from her first about her winning start to life in the Development League, and then we'll hear from Finn Harps Women's Development Manager, Paddy McDaid. And we're joined by hat-trick hero from the opening round of the Women's Development League, Sophie Hanlon of Dundalk FC. Sophie, you're very welcome to the programme.
Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. A big day, I suppose, even before the ball was kicked, just to be in the league for your local club, Dundalk. You moved, obviously, from Bohemians over the winter, and it couldn't really have gone much better for you. Second half substitute, come on for the last 20 minutes, had a hat-trick wrapped up with 5 minutes to spare. Debuts, for want of a better word, I know you were at the club before, but debuts don't really come much better than that.
No, I was delighted, absolutely delighted to even if I got 1 goal, I'd be happy, never mind 3. So I was surprised with myself.
You say that though, but you have a knack of scoring goals. You've scored some big goals previously, and then to score a hat-trick so quickly, come on, what you say, within a minute scored your first goal, like, what's that like?
The feeling is unreal. Like, I just can't explain it. It's the reason that I play football. It just makes my day.
Talk to us about the actual last couple of months in Dundalk. Obviously, you moved back at the end of last season from Bohemians. Was it a want to move back to Dundalk to play locally? The fact that it was a first team, what was the attraction back to the club?
Well, I never really thought about it until the manager Phil contacted me during the transfer window. So it was only the end of December, and then start of January, I only decided after my first training session with them. I just thought that, yeah, it's definitely for me, and it's great to be back home. And just, yeah, even 20 minutes to train, and it's mad the difference that it makes instead of traveling the hour.
So tell me, like, what was your feeling coming onto the pitch in the 70th minute? Like, you scored in the first minute coming on. Like, what was going through your brain when you came on, and just went so well for you in those 14, 15 minutes when you came on?
Yeah, I was very nervous before the game. Like, I don't do well with nerves. And as soon as I came on, the girls just play so well together. Like, everything gelled so well on the team. And even the other sub that came on, and she got the ball straight away, ran down the wing and squared it to me. So only for the girls, like, they work so hard. The work rate is so good on the team. Yeah, it just gels really well. So I was very delighted with myself.
As a team, if you look at that second half performance, 6 goals in 29 minutes, the game was still in the melting pot up until the 60th minute, and then it's just come on and took over. Like, playing against a side who would probably have players who would have played senior football before. What was it like in terms of, making that step up? Because they say under 19s, under 23s, you can have more, say, overage players and more players with a little bit more experience playing in these sort of games. What was that like?
It was a tough game when I came on first, but like, Dundalk have such a strong squad, and it's a very young squad. There's only 6 girls that aren't eligible for under 19s, and then there's 3 2009, so it is a very young squad. But I think Phil, he was looking for experienced players, so that's why he reached out to me. And it's just lovely to be able to go into a team and kind of bring them on with your experience. And yeah, it's a good start to the league. Like, we're all so happy with how it went, but we can't just focus on one game, and we have to keep going now.
I love the way you're talking about experience as if you're around forever. Just to put in the listeners and the viewers' minds, I'm guessing birthday in 2005?
2006.
Even younger. I love it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's funny. Like, I think back to myself when I was 20, and like, yeah, no, I wouldn't be scoring hat tricks in 15 minutes. That's for sure. In terms of the outlook of the whole club, obviously, the men really good success last year with the senior team getting promoted back to the top division. For the women just to come on stream and have such a good start, and the mood seems to be great around the camp in terms of how you've started this season. It must be great to kind of be part of that first senior Dundalk side in a National League. Of course, they did have a cup win, and Dundalk have always had a competitive senior women's team, but there's been a gap there for a while at national level. What's it like to be back at the rebirth of the club at this level?
Yeah, definitely. It's a privilege to be able to try and get it up and running again, but you do have to give thanks to the likes of Chris Clinton, the supporters, the volunteers, and the coaching staff who help bring it all together and transform Oriel Park into what it is today.
And how are you feeling about the Development League as a whole? Like, it's such an exciting time, I suppose, for women's football and creating that bridge. How do you feel to be kind of in that first period of being involved with all these great females across the country, getting started?
Yeah, I think it's really good because it's such a good opportunity for young girls, especially because a lot of the time you'd find that a lot of girls would stop playing football altogether after under 19, so it just gives more girls an opportunity to keep playing and develop themselves for maybe going to play in the women's Premier Division.
A lot of talk around what Dundalk have done in terms of men's football over the years, but to have that step to the Development League and to see that there's a potential avenue for Dundalk to have a women's Premier Division team from somebody being local. What does that mean sort of to the local people within the community? Because we can see over the years we've had the likes of Lynn Craven, who's played in the league. We've had Sophie Waters play in the league as well. What's that mean to a local person to have that sort of potential on the horizon?
Well, it's really good to have just, like for the community, they get to go and watch games and support the teams and see the young girls come up and get to have access to a women's team so close instead of having to travel, like the likes of Lynn Craven having to travel to Dublin to play for Bows or things like that. So it's good to see that there is somewhere for young girls to go when they're trying to have a career in soccer.
Yeah, it's I suppose the only thing, the news coming out this week in terms of Dundalk, obviously we're not going to get into the politics of what happened with the pitch, but how disappointing is it to show up to a match on a Sunday morning and see the damage that was done by supporters? Well, we'll call them supporters of whatever happened on Friday night. How does that affect your head when you're coming out and seeing the damage that's done on the pitch?
Yeah, it's really disappointing, like especially to do it to the men's team as well, and just would be nice if there was a bit of respect for the ground, especially because it was a new pitch and all the money that was spent and everything. So just need to do better.
I'd agree with that, Breifne. For me, the one thing that's disappointing on that whole situation is it seemed premeditated. That's the biggest thing about it, because there's even fans who are sort of tweeting saying, "Is the Oriel Park pitch fireproof before the game?"
Okay,
who were in the ground, and like that sort of stuff tells you, like, and when you hear sort of coming out and saying they're not going to potential have impacts on funding for League of Ireland and stuff like that, it's only the players in terms of the women's league, the men's league, who suffer in the end because of if funding's cut and stuff like that. So for me, it's not nice. It's one of these things that you wish it didn't happen.
Let's get it back to positive for a second. Emma, do you have a question?
No, I just agreeing with that. Like, obviously, Patrick Donovan, he's from Limerick. He's from my end. He's the minister for Limerick, and it's just disappointing to see, supposed fans coming out and doing that, especially as a volunteer and having been a volunteer in the league for so long and seeing the amount of work that went into Oriel Park and people coming up and painting the grounds and stuff. It's just disappointing to see, and hopefully, it can improve throughout the season. Because can't be having that.
Back to positive stuff, Sophie. Everything on the pitch is going well at the moment for Dundalk. In terms of the season ahead, obviously no promotion at the end of the year because I suppose the FAI and the League of Ireland are trying to see how everything beds in. Disappointed with that, or do you kind of understand why that has to be maybe a year or two down the line?
No, I understand that, but as well, I think it's a good thing for us because we could do it another year after this just to kind of prepare ourselves and get into the swing of things.
If you were to say, look at this year, what would your sort of expectation be from a Dundalk point of viewpoint? Is it to finish a certain height in the league? Is it to go on and potentially win the league? What is it that you are looking at would be success for Dundalk this year?
Just to get to know each other well. I know the lads, like, after Sunday, their heads are going to be wrecked trying to pick a starting team every week. So that's a positive, first of all. And then just get closer as a team and keep building because they'd like to retain the squad for next year, and hopefully we're a much stronger team when it comes to that.
You want to be careful. You could get a name for being a super sub and they say, we're not going to ruin the entire league for everybody else. We're only going to give her 15 minutes every week. It could end up hurting your chances of getting in the team every week. Sophie, congratulations. Absolute delight to have you on the show. Sorry for throwing you the little curveball about the stuff. We didn't intend to get into the politics of League of Ireland football, but yeah, you're a credit to the club and a credit to yourself, and the best of luck for the season ahead. I'm sure we'll be seeing your name popping up on the goal scorers charts plenty of times over the next few months.
Thanks so much for having me.
And we're joined by Phil Harps, Director of Women's Development within the club and the manager of their under-17 side. Phil Harps, great start to the league for you over the weekend, Paddy. Great to have a women's team in another women's team in the Northwest. I know Sligo have been in that furrow for a while. Derry City very close to you, Science Swift's very close to you. But it must be great for Finn Harps and Donegal to actually have that team. We've had plenty of Donegal players through the league. 2-2 with Shells on the opening day isn't a half bad result either.
Yeah, listen, the club were absolutely delighted with the way it started yesterday. This is 5 years in the making, to be honest. And to finally give the girls this opportunity, it's all about the players, obviously, and give them an opportunity to play at senior level. It's fantastic. And a tough game to start with, to get Shells on the 23s, but it added to the occasion, and to get the first game at home too was brilliant as well. And we had a really good crowd there, and it was a fantastic game of football. Obviously, the first team, the men's team, played there on Friday night, so the pitch wasn't great, but the girls put on a really good exhibition. It poured the rain for about an hour before the game, but then it just cleared up lovely. And credit to both teams now. It was a really good game of football.
This is sort of, as I say, it's being built, and we saw Donegal it was originally the Donegal League, had a team in, then it went into Finn Harps. Steadily made progress over the last couple of years before the Development League has come in. What's the trajectory been like within the club, sort of getting to that moment? Because you say the moment of, yes, there was such a big moment. What has that been like?
Yeah, and it has taken time. I mean, the first year was tough, just getting underway. Some of the girls had played, obviously, National League, had that experience, but there were other girls that hadn't. So just developing that over the last couple of years. But we're now in a situation this year, even my under-17 team this year, for example, like there's girls who would have walked into that a couple of years ago, but they can't even get in there and they have to wait because the standard has gone up so much. Some of these girls have pushed on to the seniors. I think there was 9 starting players yesterday from last year's under-19s. But just shows you the trajectory is there as well. So no, listen, it's great. It's a lot of the grassroots clubs deserve credit too for developing these girls, bringing them through. And you can see that yesterday, all the fans that came to the game to watch these girls, they were so proud of them. And there was really good buzz there yesterday, especially in the second half when we got 2 early goals in the second half to put us back in the lead, and then a stunning goal from Shelbourne to equalise it. So as I said, it was a good game, quick game, and no, the opportunity is there for the girls now, and I think they can all see that, and the future looks bright.
I saw it actually on social media, a really stunning goal from one of the Finn Harps ladies. How would you feel about the team coming into this? Are they excited to be getting going in the Development League?
Yeah, they're so excited. They've worked really hard. The manager, Des McGlinchey, has put in a lot of effort along with backroom staff, Andrew Chantel, and they've been fantastic. Started pre-season early January. They go Tuesday night, Thursday night. They do their own fitness program. They've really taken it on. Now, some of these girls have been with us for a few years, so it's really good to see them continuing on, and that's key. And you're going to lose 1 or 2 along the way, but these girls have busy lives. They've college, they've work commitments, they've leaving cert, a lot of them, so it is a big step, and it's a big commitment. But just yesterday, we just made it all worthwhile to see all the players there, and just not the players around the pitch, but some people there that are watching as well and stuff. So it's really, really good that way, And you mentioned that goal that we scored. I mean, that's a girl who played for me on Saturday, and she got the first goal for us on Saturday. And she came on as a sub at halftime, just changed the game. Just her pace was just fantastic. So that girl's only 16. Her dad's from Kenny, but she travels from Manor Hamilton on a Tuesday night, on a Thursday night. So her equipment over the last couple of years has just been phenomenal. So she deserves it all. It was a real Roy the Rovers moment, to be honest.
Yeah, we love the good footballers here in Leitrim. Manor Hamilton has a particularly good streak of them over the years. In terms of, I suppose, the brain drain that's come out of Donegal in the women's football over the last decade, maybe. I'm thinking the likes of Emma Doherty, Gemma McGuinness, Amy Boyle-Carr as well, to another sport. Like, we've seen so many, dozens of players, we've only named 2 or 3, but dozens have kind of not been able to take that step forward in this sport because that just hasn't existed. How important is it for what is essentially a football, soccer, football crazy county as well as GAA crazy, but it's a really strong soccer county as well?
Yeah, it's been very strong in a lot of years now, and even like you mentioned, some of those girls there have done fantastic. Amber Bard, obviously, over playing footer and stuff. You have the 2 Lovery sisters, Jodie and Kerry, fantastic players too. I would have coached some of them at Donegal League and also at Ulster schools level as well. And just to see them, the way they've progressed and stuff. But those girls, you've got to remember, they had to travel to put themselves on the map, and they've done that. And that takes a lot of commitment and I think now for the local girls, it gives them an opportunity to do it here, whether they can train here, they can develop here, and they've something to work towards, And our ambition is, we're a young team now, but we're hoping to build. We want to be part of the Premier Division eventually. That is our goal, And whether that happens, it takes 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, we're not sure, but that is our goal, to be honest.
Thanks, Breifne. I was literally going to ask the exact same thing. As I can remember, because I've been around the league long enough to see Roman McLaughlin travelling down to Peamount on a Saturday, even seeing the likes of Amber Barrett when she was up and back playing ladies football. But in terms of the ideology that players don't have to travel as much anymore in women's football, for a team like Finn Harps, and as you can see even some of the names you have mentioned, in particular Jodie and Kerry Lockery going to Sligo Rovers, having that opportunity that they can stay local, spend more time potentially with contact time, because they're not having that 2-3 hours in the car. How big is that for them, sort of, for the development of young players?
It's huge, because we do enough traveling as it is in the League of Ireland. Finn Harps, people come up to us from Dublin or wherever, and they're saying, "Oh God, we had to plan this trip," and the way up the bus, we says, "Hold on, Finn Harps have to do this every second week," So that's the reality. So, but our girls get conditioned to it; they get used to it. They enjoy it. The bus is probably where you're the most correct, to be honest. And it's good that way as well. But it is a huge commitment. We leave some mornings here at 7, 7:30 to go play a game, and they might be home to 10 o'clock at night. That's phenomenal commitment. So to answer your question, to have an opportunity locally now is fantastic. I mean, some of these girls, you've got to remember, travel to Letterkenny on a Tuesday and Thursday night. It takes them an hour to get there from a different part of Donegal. And I was looking around the bench yesterday in dressing room. I was just looking around. That's what made me so proud, to be honest, was the players were coming from all over Donegal. Karen Donagh, Billy Beggs, Gidor, every corner of the county was already covered, which is fantastic, So no, listen, it's great. It's great for Finn Harps. It's great for the Northwest. It's another team up there. I'm sure down the line Sligo would like to have another team like us in around the Premier Division as well. So it's just that local rivalry, that derby match that you want as well. So it's fantastic. So no, listen, hopefully, I think they've done a great job with this. Yes, the under 19, there's a wee bit of a gap, maybe from 17s to this league, but you'll find a lot of players are able for this. They're well capable, and it might just take a wee while for it to even develop even more. But no, I think it's a great call. We weren't ready to go to senior football yet, but now we are, because the development league has helped us. I think it's bridged that gap very, very well. And when you look at the results yesterday, they were fairly decent results around. Yeah, 1 or 2 teams suffered a wee, but you'll find it'll even out as it goes on, I think.
Can I just grab a follow-up question there, just off one thing? I just want to ask one thing, because you've said it, the 17s and 19s, 19s and 17s development league, there's been a bit of a mixed reaction from certain quarters. Some people say taking the 19s out is the wrong move. Some people say it's the right move. What would you say? Would you say it's the right move because it definitely benefits your club?
I suppose the best way I can analyze is I have to look at maybe how many players from my 17s last year would move to 19s this year, for example, and how many we would have retained from last year, So decent amount, but you'd still be taking up a lot of your 17s into 19s, if you know what I mean. And I know we took up 2 of our 17s yesterday as a senior team, but last year we were taking up maybe 4 and 5 players at a time for the 17s. So they were playing Saturday, maybe only giving them half there and then another half the night. No, so there's a bit of a juggle there as well, There's a bit of confusion out there too, because some people are like, "Oh, it's under 23, it's senior." Yes, the teams in the Premier Division have under 23 teams, but the rest of us are all senior women's teams. But you'll find the majority of those senior women's teams are under 23 as well, if not younger. So the age gap, it's pretty similar, I would say, the whole way through the league, to be honest, which is really good.
And coming from a coach's and a development perspective, there's such a broad range of talent in the country at the moment coming from the girls, and they're so inspired. How do you foresee this league going? Do you see it becoming a good thing for the youth of the country in terms of it just being so exciting at the moment?
Oh, absolutely, Emma. I'm fortunate enough to do the work with the Irish schools under 15s. It's my second year now, and the talent that's coming through is just phenomenal. And there's going to be an under 15 national league next year. So we're not just chatting now 17s and senior. The goal is next year to have a 15s league, a 17s league, and a senior league. So those girls coming in 14 years of age to under 15 league, for example, they have something to aspire to now. The pathway was always there, but there was only, remember, 12 teams, and maybe a couple of years ago, 11 teams or whatever. So, 10 teams. So now there's more and more teams as well. So, and you're talking about the travel again, it's back to that again. People have got a better opportunity. I mean, only so many players can play in that Premier Division. But now if we get the point where we have a Premier Division, a First Division, look at all the girls that can go and play senior football at a really high quality level as well. And that's what's, there's something for them to aim for. And there's kind of the League ones who really got to push on, where the girls who maybe need a wee bit of time just to develop, and they could be League players in the future, but they're not getting that maybe opportunity, and maybe no harm to their local leagues. Maybe the standard's not as high. There's a big jump from their local football right up to the National League. So I think it will be successful down the line, to be honest.
It's funny, Paddy. I was looking through the updates coming through over the weekend, and the name rang a bell with me, and I couldn't remember why. But Sarah Mulvaney Kelly was that girl you were mentioning earlier. Obviously, I'm from Leitrim, so I kind of she's been on the radar for a long time in athletics. She was winning local road races at 9 and 10 years of age against adults. Like huge talent in athletics. I know her dad's very involved in athletics as well. So, is she one of a group, or that could potentially be names that we get very familiar with over the next 10 years within the sport?
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's the thing about it now, is like some of the girls that performed yesterday, like I said, Sarah come on at halftime, did fantastic. But like, for example, Niamh Ryan is a 2007, played centre half yesterday. Niamh Ryan's was unbelievable yesterday, playing against a really good Shelbourne team on the ball, and just a reading of the game. Like, that girl has so much talent, but she's never even had a chance to go down really for assessments and stuff ever before, Molly Page, she would have played down Oldham's League a good few years back ago in the National League. Went back just playing club for the last few years. Was down in college in Galway, I think I was, maybe played there, but never really got a chance to play National League last couple of years. She was outstanding yesterday. Like, everyone's chatting about her as well. Like, where does girl come out if So that's a girl now who's getting an opportunity. She was very nervous before yesterday. She wasn't sure maybe was she at that level. And you want to see her in the second half, the way I think just confidence grew with her. So that's the point in case. Like, there's loads of other players. We had a couple of players who weren't there yesterday. One girl was sick, couldn't there. She's never been done for assessment as well, and Darcy Kelly, like, she is a phenomenal centre half. Like, so it will put them more on the map as well. Like, and it'll give them opportunities to impress as well. But like I say, it's not just all over the country. The talent is just growing and growing, and I see that every year that they're pros down in that growing with the schools set up. Like, the football is just, the standard is just so high, so it is.
Well, Paddy, thanks very much. Welcome to the League of Ireland Adult Women's Leagues in the last 48 hours as we chat to you now. It's great to have you on the show. Thanks so much. We've run out of time, unfortunately, but we will I'm sure be keeping track of your progress both underage and in the Development League over the course of the season. Thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, folks. Thank you so much.
A really, really good insight into the importance of the Women's Development League over the course of the next, and it's seasons. It's really good to hear new voices, fresh faces, new clubs, new identities coming into the league. Emma, from your point of view, you've kind of watched Treaty do it over the years as a fan, and then working with the club as a youngster, particularly a female youngster coming in, having these role models in your community that you can look up to when you're 8, 10, 12, 15 or whatever it might be. It's so key to really growing the strength of the game.
Oh, for sure. And like, you haven't seen the buzz until you see the young girls coming in to see Madison McGawan every week at the Marcus Field. Like, she is the standard now, and she is what people are looking up to, and I think she is the future of Irish football. So like, when you see youngsters coming out like that, like, and I know I say youngsters, Sophie's older than Madison, but seeing people just come out and smash it like that every week, and just these incredible results, like, the women's game is just so exciting, and there's never been a more exciting time to be a fan or get involved with a club in terms of that, and to see all these youngsters, because they're killing it. Like, they're so good.
Are you the number one fan? Is she the number one fan of the Madison McGawan club, is she?
Oh,
they're buddies. They're buddies.
Yeah.
The impression I got from was that, like, hang out together and go visit each other in the houses and stuff. Right, fair play. It's great to have that access to players as well.
She's up on the wall back there.
Aaron, I have a question for you. And something that Paddy said in the interview we did with him was how important it is for both the players to get these opportunities, that some of the girls he has in those squads over the last few seasons have never been invited to kind of screening days or to trials with representative sides. We're seeing with the men now, it's no longer an international squad of 20 with 16 lads from Dublin or 18 lads from Dublin and 1 or 2 from Cork and the exceptional one from somewhere else. We're now seeing like a men's international team underage could have 12 or 14 different League of Ireland clubs represented in the squad of 18 to 20. And we're heading that way with the girls slowly, but these extra 9 teams coming through, particularly maybe at the under 19 international grade, where they're doing it in a first team and up against first teams, we're really seeing that level and just the bulk of numbers coming through these academies now. And he mentioned the under 15s coming on stream next year. The opportunity, for the girls to show what they can do on a high level week in, week out, but also from the international managers and coaches' points of view to identify these girls from a much better quality than maybe they've seen in local junior leagues or juvenile leagues over the years.
Yeah, I think from a standpoint of sort of them players getting into an under 19s level, I think it's gonna still take a little bit of time, because you see the amount of players who are now in the likes of the under 19s who are playing in the Premier Division right now. But I think the thing about it is it's that, how do you say, visualization, that sort of, they're seeing a lot more. There's a lot more. And like when you hear about sort of players from, say, Donegal or players from certain regions not going into being in for, say, development squads and stuff like that, or being in for trials and for underage stuff and things like that, and it's all being done locally. And then you look at the senior team, sort of players coming from abroad, left, right, and centre, who are being fielded. Like, there's no reason why we can't see the next Amber Barrett, the next Roman McLaughlin. Like, I'll still go back to when Amber Barrett scored that, the feeling of when Amber Barrett scored that goal in Hampden Park to send Ireland to the World Cup that night. I was sat with one of our final whistle colleagues and Dermot Carney that night, and it was just an unbelievable moment. And like, to see someone from Donegal inspire the next generation for people from Donegal, like Emma's just said it there a minute ago about Madison McGrath sort of being the whole folklore of Limerick football. Madison McGrath has the potential to go and be the whole folklore of Irish football. Who's to say in a couple of years we don't see someone from Donegal coming, or someone from Dundalk, or someone from that sort of, or Kerry, like going and doing that. Like, we've seen Savannah McCarthy play for Ireland coming from Kerry. Like, we've seen these sort of players, and I think the whole thing is it's about having that, they can see players have done it, and they can see that opportunity is there for them. And I think that's where this league is really, really important. The one thing I will say is, while we have an under-19 squad currently announced, we still have yet to officially be told who the new Ireland under-19 manager is, with Dave Connell departing. That should hopefully be released shortly. But yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a positive. And the one thing I will say that I took from Paddy is he knows it's not just a here and now. He's aware of what needs to be done and what sort of needs to be developed in order for Finn Harps to be successful. But listen, no doubt about it. I don't mean to sound bad when I say this, but I know there's been some big results last weekend. But for me, Finn Harps getting a 2-2 draw with Shells is probably the result of the weekend.
Yeah, it's up there. I mean, in terms of the quality of the opposition, because let's be honest, Sligo weren't exactly pulling up trees in the under-19s league last year, so that's not. The Dundalk result isn't a huge surprise. Still an impressive performance and a good result, but not a huge surprise. That's pretty much it for the week. Aaron's usual tactic of trying to get me to go over the hour and affect my OCD has gone into hyperdrive tonight. But no, it is what it is. We will quickly just take a look at the under-17 results before we wrap up for the week. Some big wins in there. You can get all the information, obviously, both on finalwhistle.ie, but also on the FAI Connect app and the website for the league as well. We're looking forward to being here for the year. This has been an absolute bumper episode this week. We will be splitting the show into 2 shorter bite-sized chunks of about 40-45 minutes each going forward from next week on, as we get into the cut and thrust of the actual league season. So much to talk about. We know people don't want to sit and listen to a single episode that's nearly 2 hours long like this one. But listen, thank you so much for joining us. If you're still here, we really appreciate it. Go follow us on all the socials. You can check out Emma and Aaron on their socials. You can see it on screen if you're watching us on YouTube. It's at Emma Kate Dineen. If you're not, at Let's Talk LOIW for Aaron. No longer the WNL show. it has been put out to pasture. The branding has finally caught up. He's joined the 21st century. Welcome, Aaron. Welcome.
Listen, all I can say is thank you very much for all your help and support.
Listen, that's it from us, folks. We'll be back next week. Who's going to be in the chair? I keep doing that. It's this side. Who's going to be in the chair next week? Emma will be back with us in a couple of weeks' time to keep an eye on what's happening. Don't get too cold over in New Hampshire, Emma. We turn the heating on. You'll be fine. For us, everyone here at Flying Whistle, welcome back to Season 6. We're up and running. We'll be back next week with a proper preview of the President's Cup, and we'll keep an eye on those underage leagues and on the Development League as well ahead of the start of the season. We'll be back with you next week. Talk to you then.